I slept outside of the airport, and when I was there, I was like, "Man, I'm like, I don't know what to do." I just felt like I had to get to the ocean or something. I ended up like going walking to the ocean at like 3 in the morning,
Yeah.
thinking if I would just there'd be people there to save me or some shit. And I ended up walking to the ocean. I started walking into the ocean. I got to like around my waist level, and then I was like, "What the am I doing? Like, there could be sharks out there. I could be drowned. What am I
Yeah.
doing?" Like,
It's
I
like
had
3
like
a.m.,
an
right?
yeah, it was like 3 AM, and I was like I had like an epiphany of like how far like delusional I was at that point. I was like, "What am I doing?"
What's good, y'all? Ayezo back with another video. Hope y'all doing well out there. So today I'm just gonna share this video with y'all. I had one of my subscribers want to share his story with y'all. You know what I'm saying? His journey of smoking weed and quitting weed and what that led him to in his life, and you know what I'm saying, some negative effects that weed had on his life, and you know what I'm saying, it's really crazy. So you know what I'm saying, y'all check out this video, watch the whole video through. You know what I'm saying, comment your thoughts, you know what I'm saying, as you watching. Also, anybody want to come on next time, you know what I'm saying, hit me up on Instagram, DM me, let me know you want to share your story. I'm gonna try to get you on here. Other than that though, y'all like the video, subscribe if you new, you want to roll to 10K, and I'm gonna holler at y'all on the next one, man. Peace out. That's good, bro. How you?
Pretty good, man. How are you doing?
I'm alright. I'm alright. Appreciate you coming on.
No problem. Sorry it took a minute to like get it all set up.
It's all good, bro. So you
Yeah, yeah.
basically want to share your story on how smoking weed heavy, affected your brain, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so how long were you smoking weed in general, like throughout your life?
Well, I started in like 7th grade is when I first smoked weed. And it wasn't like an everyday thing, but I did it like once every couple months or something like that. Not every day, but pretty much I smoked weed for 10 years, pretty much consecutively, like pretty heavily. Like at first, the first like I would say from like 7th grade to like freshman year in high school, I would smoke occasionally. I would smoke with friends and kind of socially. But
Mm-hmm.
then definitely by like junior, senior year in high school, I was smoking like every day, pretty much
Yeah.
every day. And then in college, even more so, I was smoking every day. Um, and then even like when I was got out of college and just living on my own, I was smoking like even more heavily, like multiple times a day, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hey, hold
yeah,
on.
I
Let me
was
let me close my window right quick.
all right for sure.
People just start cutting grass out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah,
So you say you started in 7th grade. Then by the time you got to
yeah,
high school, you start picking up more and more and more.
yeah.
Okay, what got you into like? What made you want to do it in the first place? Like when you were in 7th grade, like what got you into it?
To be honest, I never really I guess I like thought about it, but like I never really thought I was kind of nervous because like I had the whole DARE program going through like elementary school. So I was like everything I heard about it, I thought it was all like just I was really petrified and scared to try it.
You said the what
And
program?
like that DARE, remember DARE program? Like they would go to schools and stuff like that.
I ain't never
Did you
heard
ever
of it.
have that? Oh, for real? Well, basically, it's just like a drug. Like they go to like young schools and talk to kids about drugs and stuff like that. But they're
Oh
kind of
wow.
like this, yeah. So I was afraid to, but one day I was like, I found some, and it was my brother's weed, and I was like, I was tempted. I was like, man, I don't know if I should do this or not. And then I was like, all right, let me just try it. So I ended up smoking it,
By
and
yourself? You was by yourself?
yeah, I was by myself,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, I was like, when I actually got I know some people say they didn't really get high the first time smoking, but I definitely got high,
Mm.
and I don't know, it was like a euphoric feeling, and I was like, "Oh, this is not what I really like."
Yeah.
I don't know. So then after that, like, it was
You
I didn't really
you was in
smoke too.
seventh. You was like in 7th grade, like you said. So nobody like
Yeah,
checked in on you, like noticed that you were
no,
high. Like you just was low key with it. Nobody.
yeah, yeah, and I was like very like I was scared about it, like getting caught. So I would like I did it like at night, like I did it like when my parents were home, or I would like go I think like 8th grade or like freshman year I started like hang I met some other friends that like started that smoked weed too. So that
Mhm.
became like our thing. We would just hang out and just like we go smoke weed together. We go like we just go to like find a forest preserve or something, or like
Mhm.
I don't know, we'd like skip school or something and we'd like pitch it and get like a gram or something, and we would just smoke, and it was like a little I don't know, it was just became like a thing I used to do with my friends.
Yeah. Where you
Uh,
from?
I'm from the northwest suburbs of Chicago. So
Okay.
yeah, pretty close to Chicago, but not in Chicago.
In the Midwest somewhere.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay, all right. So it started picking up as you got into high
Yep.
school. You know,
Yep.
did you consider in high school to stop, or was you like, nah, this is my prime. I'm enjoying this. Ain't no type of
Um,
negative effects that come with this. You was like having fun with it. 'Cause I know I was like, the
yeah.
first 5 years of me smoking weed, nobody could tell me nothing. Like, bro, this is the best
Yeah.
thing for me to do right now. I'm enjoying listening to music, eating
Mhm.
food, watching movies, everything. Life is just so great. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? With weed, nobody could tell me nothing. So I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you went through that phase too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, man, this is like for me, like this is like it became like part of my identity. Like literally, I was like, this is like I started hanging around with like all my good friends, like smoke weed all the time. And I kind of like I don't know, I kind of stopped being I used to play some sports and I kind of stopped being interested in playing sports a lot. Like I was just like, I just kind of just want to chill and just like hang
Yeah.
out. So, and yeah, my parents were against it. They were like very much so against weed, but I just like always would I guess they just like kind of gave up because they're like we can't watch helicopter parent him his whole life and like constantly
Hmm.
see what he's doing. And I would just be going to other like friends' houses where their parents were cool smoking weed. Like they were
Yeah.
cool with us smoking weed. So like I would just smoke weed at my friend's house and it was chill. Like no one messed with me. So I was like, all right,
Hmm.
this what's up. And yeah, I had really good memories. Like
What
every
about your
day it
older
was
bro? What about your older brother who, you know what I'm saying, had the weed in the
uh
first place?
he didn't really smoke weed too often. I have two older brothers and that was my middle brother, like the middle brother in my family, and I guess he kind of noticed that some of his weed was getting missing, but like he thought it was my oldest brother. He didn't even think it was me because I was younger. But they none of my older brothers really got into it like I was into it. Like
Okay.
they just kind of did it a couple times because they were just like I don't know, they were just curious. But like
Mhm.
I was definitely the one in the family that like smoked. I was like a stoner, honestly. I was just like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
into it.
You
Yeah,
took it around with it. Basically, you was the
yeah.
one everybody came to for the weed or want to smoke. Let me hit up James, see if
Yeah,
James not just smoke, you know. So you was
yeah,
that person in the family. Okay, okay.
yeah, for sure, dude. Like, I was definitely that dude.
So going into college, I'm guessing, because I ain't never go to college, but I know people go there and turn up. So once you ain't
Yeah,
got no parents or nobody tell you what to do, I'm pretty sure. So you could let me know.
yeah,
Did it just
yeah,
like
man.
increase immediately as you got there, or did it like slowly like just build up?
Yeah, man. It definitely increased because I felt like I had my own place. I wasn't living with my family. I went to school in Chicago too, so it was like I met people like right away that had weed. Like I met people that had like they were getting it from like California. And so
Mm,
I was like, I never had someone that had like plug like that. So I was just getting like people that just had like local plug, and it wasn't legal in Illinois at that time. So I met some friends, some mutual friends in college, and they ended up having like California stuff. Like they would get like,
mm.
dab pen, like the cartridges, like wax, and like they had bud. And, I lived in a dorm, but I still smoked, like, every day, pretty almost every day, multiple times a
So
day.
what year was this? What years was this?
This was, like, 2017 or the year I graduated high school. That's when I went away to school. I went to study marketing, and, I was just, like, really I was studying marketing, but I was just, like, I don't know, I felt like I was just going to school and trying to because it sounded like something that's respectable and I can make a career
Yeah.
with. But I was definitely smoking weed, and like in Chicago, it's like no one really cared really. Like people smoke weed everywhere in Chicago, and I lived in a dorm, but I had like a little dab pen, so I would just walk out, hit some dabs on my pen, and it was like super easy and convenient. So it was like it
Mm-hmm.
was just really easy to smoke like multiple times a day. And I never drank, like I never got into drinking. That was never my thing. I never even been drunk. Like I just don't like the taste of it and like been around like never had negative experiences around it. I don't like hate on people that drink, but it's just not for me. And
Yeah.
at that time I was just like I'm just like, oh, I'm into weed. I was like, I like getting high. I like,
Yeah.
smoking. I like, yeah. So
That's how I usually
that
go. You
was,
either on one side or the other, but some people can obviously do both. But majority of the
yeah.
time, you just pick a side, and you know that's what
Hmm.
you're sticking with until you decide it's time to quit, or you just carry that on for the rest of your life. You know, so
Yeah.
All right, so you in college, living your best life, getting fried every day, dad pens, all that stuff. You got the Cali gas coming in.
Hmm.
Life is good. So what's some like first signs you was like that was telling you it's time for me to cut back or possibly, quit? Some first signs.
Um, I'm gonna be honest, like I still didn't quit at this time. Um, I was still like going heavy with it. I started rethinking my major and I was like, man, I don't think I actually wanted to get more involved in weed. I was like, because I was like, I kind of don't really want to do marketing. This looks like not for me. So I was like looking at community colleges around where my parents live, and there was like some like horticulture associate degrees you can get. And I was like, man, what if I switch, stop going to school here and I like go to community college and I get this like associates, and then I start working in weed, like I get in the weed industry and I start like,
Mm-hmm.
growing it, being a grower and like learning more about it. So that's actually what I went to next. So
Okay.
I actually like got out of school and like quitting weed wasn't even on my mind. I was like actually wanting to do it more and make even more, get more entrenched in the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I went
Okay.
back to home and I did like 2 more years of community college, like living at my home at my parents' home, and then I moved out, got my own apartment in a suburb close to me, and I was working at a dispensary. So I was actually working in the dispensary,
Okay.
and that was like that was like the I would
Heaven.
say yeah, for me at that time because it was like
That sounds like heaven for a smoker.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you're surrounded by weed and you get a discount, so it's like you're even more tempted to spend money and to smoke more. And everyone there is only talking about the positive, so you're like, you really don't think there's anything negative about it. And I to make the increase it, I ended up getting a medical card for like I got a doctor's signature and like
Mm-hmm.
recommendation. So then I had a med card, so I was like even more.
Yeah,
Um,
it was way too easy to get
yeah,
for you. Not only was you
yeah.
working on it, but you had a medical card too. So like nothing could
Hmm.
stop you from smoking as much as you want, and you get the
Yeah.
discount. You know.
Yeah, I was like, no one could tell me nothing. I got a medical card. This is prescribed. I'm like,
And I'm
this
pretty
is,
sure like while you working there, you learning about stuff
mm-hmm.
behind it, like how it's created and all that stuff.
Yep, exactly.
So it
And then
becomes
I ended
more
up
part of your identity,
more
basically.
part of my identity, like more
Yeah.
and more, like I'm like encompassed and like fully immersed in like cannabis and like the whole lifestyle. And then I was like, I know it's taking a while, but I'm getting there. I'm getting to the point where it flipped and I had to like
Okay.
change.
Okay. All right.
So I was like, all right, I like this dispensary thing, but I want to grow it. So then I got a job I applied and got a job as a cultivator. So I moved and I was literally working in a greenhouse, surrounded by cannabis, growing cannabis all day
Mm.
again. And I moved like a little bit farther out in the country area because that's where it was. And I was still smoking all the time and surrounded by cannabis all the time. And
Okay. At this point, were you smoking dad pens or were you like rolling blunts or
oh yeah, yeah. I was like
straight pens?
all everything. Like I would smoke joints,
Okay.
I would smoke out of bongs, I would hit dab pens, I would hit like wax, like
Tobacco inside
dabs.
your weed or no?
No, not tobacco. I was just like papers
Okay.
or bongs, and then I would do like edibles. Like I started doing like Rick Simpson oil, which is like a super high concentrated like edible oil that you eat, and it's
Okay.
like super potent, super strong edible. So I started doing everything, like smoking all the time. And around January of 2022, um, I was like in a really stressed time in my life. I was just going through a lot of stress and I was smoking all the time. Um, Pretty much all the time. And I was like, dealing with stuff like I had like a relationship that wasn't going the best, and I was kind of self medicating because I was like trying to escape it. So I was just like trying to get high all the time. It didn't help that I worked in a cannabis cultivation center because I'm surrounded by weed all the time. Everyone around me is pro cannabis.
Yeah.
Everybody is like encouraging that. And around that time, I actually started getting like I actually first started getting like delusions. I started getting like hella delusional um at this time, like in January of 2022. And I will preface that I did do like like I did like LSD in like January around
Uh,
that time,
yeah,
and it was like again, I was just trying to escape my reality. I was just stressed and just
yeah,
I don't know. But I was smoking during that time all the time. And that around that time, like around like January 10th, 11th of 2022, I
yeah.
started getting hella delusions. Like I started thinking people were after me. I started thinking cars were following me. I like tons of delusions. Like
Hmm.
I thought my ex-girlfriend was like a cop or an undercover or something. Like I was literally like going through it. And
Dang.
mind you, I had never experienced anything like that in my life. I would never get paranoid really on weed. I had been smoking weed for nearly 9 years straight at that point,
Hmm.
and I never thought nothing like that could happen to me. And the crazy thing is, while you're going through that, you don't realize that you're having delusions. Everything seems real to you. Everything seems, like everything seems like everything's like connecting, or all these signs are connecting, or synchronicity. So you feel like you're like going through something real, while everyone else is looking at you like, what's wrong with James? Why is he acting all like paranoid and shit?
Yeah,
So I
like you
was
off something else,
going,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
like
like you off something else.
yeah, I was literally super paranoid and just like going through it. So I had to quit my job because I was paranoid. I didn't even want to go there. And I don't want to get into all the delusions I had, but man, there was more than I could count on one hand. Like I had many delusions going on, and anxiety and like panic attacks. And
But you're still smoking at this time, right?
yeah, I was
Okay.
still smoking. Like I was still smoking and like still smoking, and still thinking all this stuff was going on, thinking Illuminati's after me and all this shit. And like around that time, I went back home with my parents and they could tell something was off. And I was just really depressed and like, I was feeling really like going through emotions. So I actually got sent to a hospital near my parents and I was there for about a week.
Hmm.
And it's because I was feeling depressed and they were like, oh, feeling like I was suicidal. So they were like, all right, we got to make sure you're okay. So I went there. They were like, what's going on? And at that time, I was still having delusions. Like, I was thinking, like,
But you stopped
I,
smoking, right?
yeah, I wasn't smoking at the hospital and
Right.
everything, but they didn't give me like any medication or anything. And then
Uh-huh.
I was there for like a week. Like, the first thing I did when I got back out of the hospital is I went and like got some weed from the dispensary.
Mm.
And I was just went back to smoking and I was living with my parents. But they were okay with it because at this point I had the med card and stuff and I had convinced them that it was like helping me.
Yeah.
And at that time I started smoking again and shortly after I started getting super paranoid. I started getting panic attacks. Like one time, like an Amazon guy was delivering something, and I started tweaking. I thought he was like trying to kill me or something, and I like called the cops. And then my brother's like, "Dude, what's wrong? Like, why are you acting like this?" And it was like right after I had smoked. So then, right at that moment, I was like, "Damn, this is actually like a problem." I was like, "This is like fucking with me. Like,
Mm.
I'm actually like freaking out." And I was still like in denial. I was like, man, no.
Okay.
So, but
But you
shortly
figured
after
you
that,
figured at that point, like you decided like it's weed that's causing this.
I don't know what it was, to be honest, but I was like, man, I don't think it's helping at this point because literally, like,
Okay.
right after I had smoked, I like freaked out and called the cops. And then, like, shortly after, I realized nothing was going on. And I was like, it was right after I had smoked. So I was like, man, something's going on. Like, this isn't helping. But I
Mm.
was still in denial. And after that, I got sent to the hospital again for another week, the same hospital. And they were like, again, they were like, "Oh, what's going on? Like, why are you?" And at this time, I was super paranoid. Like, I thought I was in the hospital thinking everyone was out to get me and things were going like, I was being watched and stuff like that and super
Yeah.
paranoid. And again, I got out of the hospital after a week. They didn't give me no medication, and I was living at my family's house again, and I started getting paranoid again, started thinking like all this delusional things. Like I was still smoking.
Mm.
I started thinking I had like, I don't know, higher powers or something, or like in touch with nature on some deeper level or something. Like literally, I thought I was like becoming like a shaman or some shit. I was like, what the hell? But I know it sounds so stupid looking back, but in my mind, I
I
was
mean,
literally
it
that.
depends. I don't know. Like I feel like I'm in tune with nature too, but you might be talking about in a whole different way. I don't know.
Yeah, like having powers or some shit, like I don't know. Like
Um,
that's what I was thinking when I was like smoking and stuff. And then I started feeling like I don't know, I felt like aliens were trying to get me. I don't know. I know it sounds crazy, but I was literally far like that far like anxious and paranoid.
yeah.
So,
You said before all this started, you took LSD.
yeah.
You ever think like that could have been like the source of it? Because I've heard stories similar to that. People taking
Yeah.
psychedelics, and after that, everything changes around them. Stuff like you just said with nature and stuff, and aliens and paranoid and panic attacks. I've heard like similar stories from people who took psychedelics, and it led them down that road. So
Yeah.
maybe it was that, and we probably just wasn't helping the case. But
Yeah.
you know,
I guess well, I had done it before and I've never had super bad paranoia from it.
mhm.
Really, like I never like I've done it many like couple times, so I've never had it before. So, but it definitely didn't help. So I agree with you. I think it definitely didn't help. I think it was a combination of things. I think it was like stress, psychedelics, but weed was a big, big part of it because the entire time, like I did like LSD around like I don't know, like the 6th of January around then, and I was delusional all the way from that time, like around that time to like the end of February. I was like, so, and I was smoking weed like continuously through that time. So it
Yeah,
was like I didn't stop smoking weed. Like I was getting out of the hospital, smoking weed, getting paranoid again, like immediately, and like going through delusions.
mm,
So I actually like when I was living with my family the second time after getting out of hospital, I was still smoking and I like didn't feel safe at my house. So
yeah,
I went to go live with my friend and then I don't know, I like ended up like living with my friend for like a week and I still was smoking. I was still smoking weed and I was still getting paranoid and like still thinking things people are out to get me and stuff like that. So then I started like thinking I was getting like messages through my phone. Like I felt like I was like I don't know, I felt like I was like songs were like trying to tell you something or like stuff like that. Like just trying to find deeper meaning into everything. Like thinking license plates were trying to tell me something, and then I ended up like not feeling safe at my friend's house, and I was like, man, I gotta get out of here. I was like, I don't feel safe. So I ended up like taking a flight to like
just off topic, a little bit off topic, but maybe
yeah, yeah.
on top of everything else, the LSD and the over smoking, maybe it's like somebody else like you was listening to on YouTube who was like getting inside your mind. So I don't know what you was like watching on YouTube or television, like what else you were really like feeding your mind, but all that could
hmm
contribute to you being paranoid and expect and seeing all these signs and stuff like that too.
Yeah, it could, man. I agree, man. And I know it's crazy as hell, but it's a long story. But I ended up taking a flight from my friend's house. I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friend. I took a flight to Oklahoma City. I
Mm,
don't know why I took a flight there. I was just like, man, I got to get out of Chicago area. This place is like people are out
yeah,
to get me and shit. And I was there, and then I was still paranoid, and then I was thinking I was gonna get like saved or something, or like all this shit would end when I got there, and it didn't end. So then I was like, fuck, where do I go now? So then I took like what little money I had left,
yeah,
and again with the songs and shit, I was thinking like I kept like hearing references to like going to the ocean. So I was like, man, maybe I gotta get to the ocean and all this paranoia will end. So
yeah.
then I took a flight to Hawaii. I took a flight all the way to Hawaii. And I got to Hawaii. I didn't
One way
have
flight.
a one-way flight, no money. After that, I
Yeah,
had no money. I slept outside of the airport. And when I was there, I was like, man, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just felt like I had to get to the ocean or something. I ended up like walking to the ocean at like 3 in the morning,
yeah,
thinking if I would just, there'd be people there to save me or some shit. And I ended up walking to the ocean. I started walking into the ocean. I got to like around my waist level, and then I was like, "What the fuck am I doing? Like, there could be sharks out there. I could be drowned. What am
yeah.
I doing?" Like,
It's like
I had
3
like
a.m. Right?
yeah, it was like 3 a.m. And I was like, I had like an epiphany of like how far like delusional I was at that point. I was like, what am I doing? So I got out, I slept the night, then I called my oldest brother and I was like, yo, I'm going through some mental health things. I need some help. And he was like, "All right, man, we'll get you home and safe." And came back home to Chicago, and then I ended up going to a hospital in Ohio. I don't know why Ohio, but basically, I had to take medication there, like antipsychotics to help like bring me back down to like rational level thinking and like bring me out of this delusional state. And I was at that hospital in Ohio for like a whole month. I was there for a whole month, and I was a little bit delusional still in the beginning, but over time, as the medication started like taking place, it brought me back down to reality. And I wasn't smoking, obviously, too.
Yeah. So
So
what time was this? Like all this started like last
March.
year, 2022.
Uh, yeah,
You went to
January
Hawaii. When did you go
2022.
to Hawaii?
Probably end of February, like end of
February.
February.
Yeah.
Yep. And like I said, that whole period from like January, like I did the LSD, and then like the period from like January 6th to like literally to like the end of February, I was pretty much smoking weed the entire like through that entire time. So like fast forward now, I'm doing much better. Like I'm not on antipsychotics anymore. I have very few moments where I have any anxiety or paranoia. I don't smoke
Mhm.
weed anymore.
How long
Last
has it
time I
been?
s- last time I
Yeah.
smoked weed was in August of last year. So a little bit over a year. But
Wait, wait. So the whole LSD trip, January 2022.
mhm.
The Hawaii trip you said was in February. You talking about this year or last year?
February of 2022. Like I like
Oh, okay. I'm thinking this
yeah,
all
yeah.
lasted a whole year. This lasted in a few months. Oh, this whole story lasted in a few months.
Yeah, yeah, it took like about
Oh,
2 months. Yeah,
okay. Okay.
yeah.
Dang.
So, yeah, so like I had smoked weed a couple times after getting home from all this to like test the waters to be like, nah, man, maybe it was just like maybe I can smoke weed again. Maybe, I was just trying to think I could handle it. And I tried a couple times, and again, like as soon as I smoked weed, I had like instant paranoia. I had like instant like bad paranoia, delusional thoughts, like same thing I was going through. So then I was like, okay, this is not fun anymore. I was like, this isn't fun. Like I used to smoke weed and it used to be fun. I used to have the time of my life. Now it was like the most terrible feeling ever. And I was like, this isn't fun. Why am I doing this? I'm like, this is like, it was just so hard to let go of my identity. I thought I was going to be a cannabis cultivator or something or own my own business in cannabis.
Yeah.
And
You already had
so
your
yeah,
future. You already had your
yeah.
future kind of, mapped out
I
in your
didn't
mind.
Yeah, and I didn't have a plan B. I was like, I'm doing this or nothing else. I was like, I'm just doing this. So I know it's crazy, but after then, I was like, I talked to actually recently I went to a clinic near Chicago, and I told them my whole story to like a professional doctor, psychiatrist,
Hmm.
told her everything that happened to me, and then she gave me a brain scan. So I actually got a brain scan done, multiple brain scans done, and the way it works is they give you like a little IV, and it puts this fluid in your brain, and basically, when they do the scan, they can like check which areas of your brain are lighting up. And that means like which parts of your brain have activity or more blood flow.
Wow.
So what she found out after doing the brain scan is that I forget which side of my brain, but there's one side of my brain, like one of the lobes that has a severe lack of activity. So through when she showed me the picture of the scan, it looked like a hole, almost like like a pretty big hole or like a bunch of little holes on one side of the brain. Now they weren't actual real holes, but what that meant was there's a bunch of lacking activity in there. There's a bunch of lacking blood flow. She told me that this is super consistent with cannabis use. Like she's seen this a lot. She's done this a lot. She's seen the worst of the worst, and she told me
Mhm.
that you've been smoking weed consecutively for like 10 years straight and heavily, like high THC. And she's like, this is like this is like exactly what you see from someone with hot, heavy cannabis use.
Uh-huh.
And that area of the brain is lacking blood flow is
Yeah.
also the area of the brain that is responsible for hallucinations, delusions, and deja vu, which all of those things I experienced in that time.
Mhm.
So it could be indicative of malfunctioning due to like heavy cannabis use and also like other drugs. So she thinks that what I went through was a poly drug induced psychosis. So that's poly drug because there was like LSD, but at the same time, I was using cannabis all the time, like throughout the entire period. And she was like, she didn't think there was enough evidence to just like label me as having like schizophrenia right away because she was like, you hadn't been like sober, like you haven't been off of everything for that to be enough time to tell. She was like, you were smoking weed the entire time. So like, you can't just say it's like a mental disorder if
Yeah.
you're still on, you still were using drugs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
last
so I
time you smoked was August, you said?
yeah, the last time I smoked like dispensary stuff was August of last year.
Okay, so it's been like a year plus.
Hmm.
And up to this
Yeah.
day, up to this day right now, are you still having the issues, paranoid, delusion?
No, not really. For the most part, it's rare. Like I'm pretty good. Like I don't really get any paranoia or delusions. Every now and then, like every now and then, I'll see like a trigger, something that like I saw when I was going through that period of time,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll kind of snap me into that like a little bit of a like kind of like that feeling when your heart, I don't know, it's like that feeling like when you like miss a step on, they're going upstairs and you miss a step and your heart jumps a little bit. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like that. I'll see a trigger or something that reminds me of that time,
Yeah.
and it'll kind of like bring back those memories, and it kind of gives me a little bit of anxiety, but it's only for like a couple minutes, and it's very rare, like maybe like once every month or once every 2 months, and it's very like, I don't know, it's manageable, it's not very it's not terrible. So for
Mm-hmm.
the most part, I mean, I'm still like, I'm not saying, I'm gonna say I'm 100% recovered because I still sometimes do have like a little bit of paranoia or anxiety, but for the most part, like I'm miles of miles ahead of where I was, you know,
Yeah.
and like when that time happened. And I'm doing stuff to try to improve my brain. So like I started doing this hyperbaric oxygen therapy. So it's like you sit in this chamber and breathe like oxygen, and you get like 8 times the amount of oxygen than you normally would just from breathing air. And that psychiatrist was telling me that it like promotes healing in the brain, promotes like new neural like neuron growth, and
Yeah.
can help heal my brain. So I've been taking supplements, trying to work out.
That's good.
um I go to therapy still sometimes if I'm going through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to share my story because I was probably the biggest pro cannabis person. Like I was so pro cannabis. I would argue with people that said anything bad about cannabis or weed. I would be like, no, no,
Get a
no.
lot of those in my comment section.
I was like, it's a medicine. I truly believe it was. I mean, I still believe it can be a medicine for some, but like after this, I have a completely different view of it. Like
Yeah.
I don't. It's marketed as being something that's safe for pretty much everyone, and that's just simply not true. You know,
Yeah.
like the psychiatrist was telling me, just like how someone might be allergic to peanuts or shellfish,
Mm-hmm.
your body can have that same response to THC, and people don't know that. And the thing is too, it doesn't even have to be from the beginning. It can be later in life. I smoked weed for 9 years straight and was
Yeah.
fine. And then all of a sudden, something switched, and you know, stress, you know, combination of LSD and stress, and then
Yeah.
smoked, and all of a sudden I could never smoke again. And every time I try smoking, instant paranoia, delusions, and it was terrible. So I just want to like let
Uh-huh.
people know, like, especially if you have anyone in your family with a history of any psychotic disorder, like if you have people in your family that have schizophrenia, schizoaffective, bipolar disorder, you're taking a risk if you smoke weed because it's been shown to like bring out psychosis more so in people that have that. And
Uh-huh.
there's more and more stories of people that are having this. If you go on Reddit, you can go on Reddit, like you said, like Reddit leaves, or you can go
Mm-hmm.
on Reddit. There's a psychosis page for people that went through psychosis on Reddit. Man, every week I'll see people similar stories to me. They were smoking weed constantly. They started getting delusions, and they can't smoke weed no more. And like similar, very similar stories. So I think it's
Yeah,
becoming more common.
for sure. I think we in different times now. So maybe 20, 30 years ago when everybody was smoking, natural weed, this kind of stuff wasn't happening. But it's 2023, and as y'all see over the past decade, like the THC percentage is increasing, 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 getting stronger and stronger and stronger. way more potent than what it used to be. So what that means is it's going to lead us to different, directions now that we taking in way more THC than back in the day when they were smoking already. So yeah, I feel like I done said this plenty of times. And maybe another thing that just made me think about is maybe the weed you was smoking inside the dispensary you was working in was not like GMO, that I was about to say. So created inside the lab, basically not natural. You know what I'm saying? It might be a sign that a lot of weed that they now legalizing is just not natural, and we don't really know what it's going to lead to. Just like, what I'm saying, the vaccine shots, like you don't really know what it's going to lead to in 5 years or 10 years from now. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you shared the story. 'Cause I'm pretty sure somebody out there is going through similar things. Like you said, Reddit, you done seen plenty of people going through same things. So yeah, hopefully this video can help out whoever comes across. Like,
Yeah, man.
take it how you
Definitely.
want. We ain't telling you what to do, but don't
Hmm.
say, what I'm saying, you wasn't aware negative effects can come from smoking weed, especially for a long period of time. And especially
Hmm.
when you start buying it from a dispensary, you're not growing it yourself. You don't really know what you're smoking and what it's going to lead to health wise.
Yeah,
So
for
I
sure,
appreciate
man.
you, James, man.
No
Um,
problem, man.
this story was getting kind of deep at one point, when you start
Yeah,
walking into the ocean, bro. Like I was like, what is about to
it's
go, bro? I'm like,
it's
this about to take a
crazy. I know
turn.
it's out there. It's crazy. Like I never thought I would experience something like that ever in my life. And like I know it's crazy, but I just want to put it out there. Like this happened to me. I never thought it would happen. I never thought it would happen to me, but it did. And like I don't know, just like be careful, just I
Hmm.
don't know, you know what I mean? And I appreciate your videos too, because they really do help me like stay sober and shit. Because 'cause I'm like, I don't know, I just like all the weed live check-ins, all that, like all the videos, I like them. I mean, it's like extra support, so appreciate
Yeah.
what you're doing too.
Appreciate it, bro. And also,
No
bro, y'all
problem.
gotta clap it up. Drop 100 down below for James for just having courage to share this because y'all don't understand, how many people have stories that they don't want to share because they might get laughed at or somebody might think they crazy or be
Yeah,
ashamed of their
yeah.
story. So shout out to you, James, for just sharing your story here. And I'm pretty sure on Reddit and also whoever you're talking to in your real life. You know what I'm saying? Like you
Mhm.
never know who that can help. You know what I'm saying? And impact in a good way. So appreciate it,
Thanks,
James,
man.
for coming
No problem,
through
man.
and having the courage to share your story.
Anytime, man.
All right, bro. I'm gonna holler at you in the
All
next one.
right. All
All
right,
right.
take care.